says, your immersive experience has been hijacked. It is highly recommended that you disconnect.
Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Immersive Experience. I have an extraordinary guest who's going to come on and she's going to speak with us about her life, financial independence, and everything like that. I am going to give her an introduction, but I want to tell you guys that within the last month, I would say that we've had two people come on and speak about financial independence, or i.e., literacy. And I want to tell you why that is. I think that we are entering a time where we need to understand how money works, and not only in the capacity that we've been able to understand it, because obviously there are still a lot of people out there who battle poverty. And so I want to be a place where we can where I can put those resources in front of you, and then what you can do is you can go ahead and branch off on your own, follow them, make sure you're listening to the pointers that they're giving and different things like that, so that you yourself can aid in your relationship with money, or in your finances. And I think that is one place where a lot of people struggle, to save, and not only to save but to invest, to even just figure out what their relationship is with money and why it is so messed up. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, prepare to be inspired, because today we have the honor of welcoming an extraordinary woman who wears many hats with grace and determination. Ellie Johnson is not just a mother and businesswoman, she's a trailblazing financial coach and founder of Johnson Powerhouse, a beacon of hope for the middle class family striving to build generational wealth. With her heart centered approach and knack for turning complex financial concepts into actionable wisdom, Ellie has empowered individuals across all 50 states to master money, reduce debt, and secure brighter futures. But Ellie's impact doesn't just stop at finances. She's a storyteller whose authenticity lights up every room, whether she's motivating others to take control of their lives or sharing hilarious, relatable anecdotes from her own adventures, including her latest book about dating after 50. Ellie Johnson isn't just changing lives, she's creating legacy. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, let's dive into her journey, her mission, and the magic she brings to every space she occupies. Please give a warm welcome to Ellie Johnson. Hello.
Hey, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. Just a little sinus, so I know I'm gonna sound fabulous with my sinus.
That's all right. As long as they can get the information you're here to give, and just to learn a little bit about you and the things that inspire you. What I'll start off by saying is I have a friend. Her name is Samil, and she we went to college together, and she has a podcast, and it talks about being a mommy mogul. So I'll go ahead and title you as that right now. This, ladies and gentlemen, will entitle a mommy mogul moment. And if you haven't, make sure you follow Samil on YouTube as at mommy mogul. So, Miss Ellie Johnson, I just want to give you the floor for a little bit, just to give us a little more insight into who you are. And then we'll get on with the interview. We'll start asking some questions, and I'm sure the things that you say will prompt some even deeper questions and help us explore a little further.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for inviting me to be on today. Um, it's a pleasure and an honor for your viewers, for me to be in front of your viewers and your listeners. And just to tell you a little bit about myself, my story started many, many years ago when I saw my parents thrive. And even though we were middle class families, we weren't living paycheck to paycheck. We weren't robbing Peter to pay Paul. And I say we, but I mean they. So
Yeah.
I was intrigued, but I don't understand why I never asked. I just took it as, something. That's how we all live. That's how everybody lives. And of course, as you grow up and reality hits you, or you're in the workforce, I was like, wait, how my parents retired at 50 and live until they were 80 without having to go back to work, without depending on the government, without having to depend on us as adult children, and without having to ask anybody anything. And, I missed kind of the boat because I didn't ask them how they did it, because by the time I reached um, entrepreneurship, they had already passed. They had me late in life, but I knew there was a way. So I started in the workforce, and I realized this is not for me. I this 9 to 5, I can't cut it. I can't spend time with my family. I'm not making enough money, and I'm not thriving. So I started searching, um, entrepreneurship. Not knocking jobs. Some people love their jobs and they are excellent at it. But I was excellent at it, but I didn't love it.
Ah, that's right.
So I started, looking for entrepreneurship, especially because as a mom, a wife and a mom, I wanted to be able to give my household 100%, just like I was giving my job.
Yeah.
So that's why I started dabbling. And it's not until I realized that you have to educate yourself, because you sometimes you start things and you wing it and you think it's this way, that way. You don't really do the research, and you don't really ask people that are successful in certain
Yeah.
aspects for that you start thriving. So it took me a lot of up and downs and knockabouts, and and then I got into the financial industry, and that's where I really learned how some people, especially in our communities, are thriving. And I decided I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to help people in our community, friends, family, also to thrive as well.
Awesome. I like that. I like that a lot. That is so beautiful. Uh, um, So, Miss Ellie, you've dedicated your life to helping middle class families achieve financial independence while also raising a family and sharing your own personal adventures. Looking back on your journey, what moment or realization inspired you to turn your passion into a mission that has impacted lives across all 50 states?
Well, like I mentioned, I was an entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur since the early 90s, maybe mid 90s.
Hmm.
I know I look like I'm 40, but maybe even 35. But
Yeah.
I became a client of a financial coach. And sometimes you're making money, and you think you're making it, that hey, everything is fine. And it's until I sat down with that young lady as she showed me how much better I could be, how the mistake that I have made and how to fix them, even though at
Yeah.
that age. So it's never too late. You know, I could tell your listeners or those who are watching, it's never too late. Never think, oh, because you're in your 40s or your 50s, you can't fix what you have done in the past. What the past is the past. We learn from it, and there are ways and means that will help you uh, retire with some dignity. So when I became a client, and I tweak here and there, and I had a lot of tweaking, trust me. That's not because you're making money means that you're good. It's how you handle that money, how you manage that money, how you let that money work for you.
Hmm.
So after I saw the things that I had to do, I was a client for a little while. I started thinking, if I was in that position, middle class, making good money, and still almost, you know, not making it,
Yeah.
I wonder how many people out there in the same situation. So that's when I said, it's going to be my mission. First, I said, well, let me see how much money, if I could make money being a financial coach. Then I said, well, it's not only about the money, it's about helping the other person. So,
Yeah.
and as you know, the more you help, the more you get. You give, you don't give just to get, but you plant a seed here and it grows elsewhere. So I said, well, since I love to talk, I think I know how to talk. Let me start helping my fellow man, meaning my community, my friends and family, and then expand to my own community. I'm Black and I'm Hispanic. So that was a big
Hmm.
mission for me. That's like my passion, to help those first. And of course, anybody else. But that was my first passion, my mission, to help my community.
Yes, I love that. That is beautiful. I think that we should all have a little bit more of willingness to help with the things that we have learned. So I do appreciate you for putting your knowledge into a very accessible place. You guys, if you don't know, she also has a podcast as well, And she has a YouTube channel that allows you to go in, get some information about the things that could aid you in financial literacy and financial independence as well. I want to ask you, because just as a person, because I think we've all been on the side of the fence where we're not really too privy on how money works all the time. What are some of the most common misconceptions that you see that people come to you with and that you have to rectify?
Well, most people think that they got to have a lot of money
Mm,
first before they could do anything. Listen, not everybody's born with a silver spoon. Not everybody's family, was into oil or properties, real estate. A lot of families start just like you and I, you
mhm,
know, not even have to be middle class families. I know people that have come from poverty to being able to have generational wealth in their family, and generational wealth, not only money, knowledge, and many other things. So a lot of misconceptions that people have, like I said, the first one is, well, I don't have enough money to start saving or investing or putting aside, I'm barely making it.
mhm,
Another misconception is, well, that's not for me, that's for the others. No matter your race, your religion, your ethnicity, it's for everybody. Money is one color, it's green. So money doesn't care what color you are. Money is there as a tool for us to survive and get ahead and thrive. So I think that's the biggest misconception,
mhm.
especially people that work day to day, 40 hours a week plus. They feel like, I don't have the time to start anything, nor the money to start anything. And, there's a couple of other little things, but I think that's the major misconception that people, you know, come to me at the table.
I understand that. I think that is, I know for sure that's one of the misconceptions that I had, that you need a lot of money to make some more money. Like so. And I do know that is how I felt. And then also there's this mentality of the excuses that we have as well. Oh, I'm a mom. I don't have time to make time to be an entrepreneur and also be a mom. And Miss Ellie, of course, you are a living testament to this exact excuse. I would like to know some of the ways that you did juggle being a mom and a full-time entrepreneur while trying to better your life and your finances.
Sure, absolutely. In the beginning, of course, like I mentioned, you kind of wing it and make a mess of it, and you feel like you're failing at entrepreneurship and you're failing as a mom and a wife, a housewife, because, you know, everything is crazy. But then I realized that, what's my best friend? A calendar.
Mm,
So if you treat whatever it is that you're doing, your side hustle, your business, and your family, as and each one as an entity, and make time in the calendar, both of them as important, because you want both of them to be successful. That's when I started, you know putting things in place. There was at one point I had 3 jobs. Well, I had 2 jobs and my business and my children and my husband and the household, and I didn't know how I was going to make it. But when you
mm,
start prioritizing on both sides, not one over the other, family is as important as your business is. But you just have to prioritize what's more important on each one. And that calendar is your best friend. There are things that are non negotiable, especially you ladies, coming up. Maybe your kids are just, in preschool or in elementary school. Um, it's so important to not feel guilty to spend time with your family and not do something for your business. And at the same time, not feel guilty when you're doing something for your business instead of spending time for with your family. The important thing is to use that calendar. Calendar is gold. So whatever is not negotiable, if it's Sunday at 2, this is what we're doing with the children. Well, your business time, you cannot book any appointment Sunday at 2. And that's
mhm,
what I where I realized that I could do this.
mhm. I like that. I like to hear that. You have you have some really good answers, and when you answer the questions, there's a lot of things that just make me want to dive in. And that's why I tell people all the time, like, there's when I do interviews, I like for them to be free flowing, because I do believe that if we just try and stick to one area, we never get the full story. So even with you being a storyteller, and before I get to that, there is one question I do want to ask, because this is one of the questions that a viewer had, and they wanted to know, how do you define financial independence? And then I'll add the rest of that question, um, because I know it was one that we also talked about. How do you define financial independence, and how has that definition evolved throughout the years?
Well, for me, uh, first coming up, when my children were young and I didn't know any better, I thought financial independence was like, you're super wealthy, you got all the cars, you got 10 houses, uh,
Hmm.
you don't have to go to work ever, or you don't have to have a business. And then as, life knocked me out, it gave me a couple of slaps here and there, I realized, something? The definition of financial independence to me change. And of course, everybody has their own definition. Another misconception people think is, well, if I can accomplish this, I'm not independent or I'm not financially free. Everybody has their own definition. I'll give you my definition. For me,
Hmm.
financial independence is being able to do what I want, when I want, with the people that I want, without struggling, without robbing Peter to pay Paul. Could you
Hmm.
imagine you wake up the first of the month and everything is paid in advance? Your mortgage, your rent, your car note, your utilities, your gifts to your church or your charity, all of that is done. Not counting with what's coming in.
Hmm.
So that's financial independence. Being able to take a trip, 2 weeks vacation, paid in advance, whether if it's all inclusive or not. I've been on vacation. We've been on vacation, been in advance, and it wasn't all inclusive. All the money was there. So when you come back, there's no credit card bill to take care of.
Hmm.
And if there is, it's because maybe you purchased something that it wasn't planned. So there's no guilt. You're there for those 2 weeks to enjoy yourself and come back refreshed. Like I said, guiltless, and no bills to take care of. That is true financial independence. And then spend the time with the people that you love, with the people that uh, you appreciate. You know, instead of force yourself to take a vacation with a couple of friends so that you could share the bill. No, that is true financial independence for me. Now, of course, everybody else has their own definition, and whatever their definition is, the important thing is to work towards it. We can make a plan to work towards whatever it is that person uh, goals and dreams are.
Yeah. Pull your calendar out, and start focusing on ways that you can start changing your habits today. I think one of the biggest things is that we wait so long for something to be perfect. And here's something that we have to understand, that if you're not working on your finances, then your finances are never going to be perfect. And so you're waiting for a time that just is not going to ever exist. And definitely find out what your definition of financial independence is. I do believe that is a good place to start, because, as she stated, it is different for everybody. For me, I would say that financial independence, it looks a lot like what you stated, would be my definition. Was that my ideology of it at first? Of course not. But as because you see things on TV, and I feel like this is how we fall into those financial pit holes, is because we look at what's happening on TV, and we deem that the things that we see on TV or Instagram or whatever is more popular these days, that you're looking at TikTok shop, and you're looking at it and you're just kind of like, oh man, this is what success is. And in order to get that, but then you don't have the tools that you need. So with that being said, Miss Ellie, what are some tools that they could utilize in their everyday life outside of a calendar, or planning things out, that would just be able to really help them put their finances into perspective?
Yes, thank you for that question. I get that asked a lot, um, because some people say, okay, well, I don't know where to start. Well, first thing, like you mentioned, is to know what you want.
Mhm.
It's like your final destination. So I use this example a lot. If I'm in southeast of the United States and I want to go to northwest, I don't just get in the car and start driving. Yes, I'm going to see a few signs here and there, but as the further you go, some of those signs are not going to make sense to you. Some of those signs are going to be like, okay, both of them say south, but which one do I take? Both of them say west, but which west, right?
Yeah.
So the important thing first is to know what your final destination is. Some people say they want to retire with $1 million. Okay, fine. That is your final destination. Now, the
Yeah.
tools, one tool that we have in place that help me and help many of my clients. And of course, just because you have a tool don't mean that you're going to use it. I know of people that have tools available and don't use it, but we call it a financial needs analysis. And what that does, that what that is like a GPS for your finances. So in other
Wow.
words, you know where you want to go. Okay, final destination. You know where you at, where you starting at before you get in the car. Okay, here's where I'm at. Maybe I'm $20,000 in debt, $100,000 in debt. But that
Mhm.
tool, if you're honest with yourself, when we sit to the table, or whether it's via Zoom, and you're honest and you uh, disclose all the information, as financial coach, of course, your information is confidential. Will the tool itself, with our guidance, will help you get to your final destination. Now, of course, it's going to tell you, a couple of things. We can't discuss everything here now, but it's going to give you a few steps, like debt stacking. Will help you reduce your debt. The savings, which accounts you need to have set up for your savings. How to make your money grow. All of those tools are included in that GPS. I love to call it GPS,
Mhm.
because I grew up in an area where in that time when there was no GPS, we used to get in the car, unfold that map, and start looking at all of 10,000 lines. And I know some of you guys are never gonna have to deal with that, but to me the GPS that we use to move around our cars, and even you could put it in a setting that if you're walking and you want to go to a destination, it'll tell you which way to go, because just
Mhm.
because you're going there don't mean you're going to follow regular GPS, because there's roads that are
Yeah.
not for walking. So I just love a GPS, and to know that we have a GPS for our finances that would help money work for us instead of us working for money. To me it was like an explosion. Even I didn't find it until a little later in life, but it has really helped me, and it has helped some of our clients. So that's one of the tools. That's the first tool I think everybody should start with.
Mhm.
It will help you to see where you at and how to get where you want to go.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. And I love that because I do believe that a lot of people, and including myself, I just don't speak from when I talk, I try not to just speak from the ideology of everything that happens outside of me. I try to speak from a very personal perspective because I think there's more knowledge personally here than there is anywhere else that I would be able to find it. But just even thinking about knowing where you want your finances to go, a lot of us don't have any ideal of where we want our finances to go. We just have this big dream of what we know we want the end goal to look like. So we never set those plans in places because we a lot of people that I know grew up in poverty. And so, when the parents used to say, "Oh, that money's burning a hole in your pocket, isn't it?" And like literally, it definitely was. And it still does. So even with that, even with the financial needs analysis that you were talking about, and also being a mother and an entrepreneur at the same time, what life lessons have your children taught you that you've applied to your professional life?
Something, even though um, people might say, well, You can't learn from your children. My children saw me go for, I think the last two wouldn't even remember me leaving the house and clocking in, for a job 9 to 5. So that was like the biggest blessing for me. But what I learned from them in that uh, trajectory from all three of them is that nothing is too big to tackle, and nothing is too serious. If you understand what I'm saying, it's like,
Mhm.
something, we're gonna get it done. Because when we get to adulthood, we forget our dreams. We forget, that if we push, we could get it done. So then now when you're raising your children, especially when they're like, in primary school and whatever, and you want to tell them many times, no, that can't be done. But with their childlike faith, they're, yeah, mommy, we're gonna get it done. Oh yeah, oh no, mommy, I know you could do it. And it's like I started realizing that even things are important, not to take them so serious that make me stress, that make
Mm.
me, uh, you know, explode and throw something,
Yeah.
because that's not gonna take me anyplace. So a lot of people say that I have an excellent relationship with my children. Um, oh, that they have an excellent relationship with me. I think it's the other way around. They made me who I am, and they made me um, appreciate life, the things in life, and how important it is to balance both things, family and business, or whether if it's family and job. Many of your listeners are could be professionals, or they're in the corporate world, or maybe they're self-employed. Balance is different for everybody. So don't get caught up in this, like, oh, work home balance. No, it's different for everybody. Because when like I mentioned before, when I had two jobs and a business and my three kids and my household and a dog, we made it happen. We made it work. And then, of course,
Yeah.
because of following certain rules and putting certain things in place, I didn't need two jobs and a business. And I still had the three kids and the dog, but things started to fall in place. So
Yeah.
definitely, I'm sure some people might hear that you can learn from your kids, but it is true. It's not a cliche, because they are so naive to the craziness that's going in the world, that to them it's not a challenge to tackle things. So
Hmm.
I could say that much. As far as I know, I maybe deviated a little bit. When it comes to my children, I could talk for days, because they
Okay.
have really helped me get to where I'm at. Because kids are wise. You just have to listen, and most of the times we don't listen.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. And speaking of your children, I did have the immense pleasure of actually interviewing your daughter Bella Rosa. And I mean she is just as amazing as you are when it comes to financial literacy. She came on and she gave us a few pointers. She even talked about things that should be reiterated in courses, things that we should learn in school about financial literacy as well. We also talked about something that I know you are just as informed on as her. And just as a reiteration for the audience, it's called the Rule of 72. I would like for you to reiterate it to us as well. I do know because repetition is the mother of all skills, so you can never hear it enough. So I do believe your explanation and your expansion on that as well is necessary. So
Absolutely. You say that reiteration is very important. Listen, it took me a minute to learn it, so much less to teach it. I
yeah.
kept saying it, like, my coach used to say, well, all you do is this, da 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 da. And I'm like, yeah, I got it. And then it's like, oh, what? What did she say? And I'll go on my notes, and, I listen to somebody, financial professionals, there's like, Susie Orman, Dave Ramsey, and all of these people. I used to listen to them, Robert Kiyosaki, and I'm like, how could they explain it so well? Not
Hmm.
fully explain it, but I know they're applying it to their life. And the rule of 72 is something that financial institutions or any bank or whatever, they know it. They just don't. This is my opinion. Don't say that they said. This is my opinion. I feel it's not taught by financial institutions because an informed consumer will make better decisions. So they
Hmm.
let you know the more you depend on them. Now that is my opinion. You know, don't, like I always say, don't throw the phone at me, but that is my opinion. So the rule of 72 says this, and it came about, I think it was Einstein that said, you take whatever interest rate you're getting from any financial institution, and you divide that by 72. And that will give you the amount of years it will take for your money to double.
Hmm.
So let's say you're getting 3% from your bank, you know. And if you are, let me know.
Okay.
I'm not talking about, uh, uh, different situations. Let's just regular Joe, we don't have, we're starting out, we have a bank account at 3%. So you take that and you have um, $10,000. So you divide 3 into 72, and it'll tell you how many years it will take for that money to double. So I don't like to give amounts because I don't want people to feel like, well, I don't have $10,000, but whatever. If your listeners have a calculator right now, and you divide it, it'll tell you that it'll take uh, 48 years for your money to double,
Hmm.
right? And something, I should have had a calculator in front of me. I don't know if you have one, but I'm kind of, because when I sit with individuals, we do it right there with the calculator. But let's say if you had $10,000 and it'll take you 48 years for it to double. That means that in 48 years you'll have 20,000. So now if you're starting out at at 25, 48 years from now, you're still fairly young. You're not 100. So you'll say, okay, well, $20,000 is not bad, but it is bad because it took all that time
To make
for
that.
your money to double. So the key is to find a tool on how to make your money double faster. So in other words, if you got 12% on that same money, your money will double in 6 years.
Mm.
So that's much better. So when I
Yeah.
got started, you know, making money work for me instead of uh, me working for money only, I was already in my 50s. So I didn't have
Mm.
24 years for my money to double. It didn't matter if it was 5,000, 10,000, 100,000. I did not have 24 years, 48 years because, hey, that's the circle of life. I know it sounds a little morbid, but hey, we born, we grow, we live, and we pass away, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I learned that if you working with a financial or investment expert, which uh, tool, and when I say tool, I mean account, or I don't want to talk in general about investment. Investment is something that you speak on a one-on-one with your client,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But when I spoke with my investment specialist, they said, well, this is the tool at your age that you need for your money to grow and double faster because at your age, right? So let's say
Mm-hmm.
somebody that's 25 and they want to retire with X amount. Well, the financial expert is going to say, well, this is what you need to do. This is the tool that's going to help you because you got long time to put some money aside and invest so that it could grow for you based on your goals. So, just giving you, a couple of tidbits, but the rule of 72 is essentially that. So if you have your money in an account that's giving you 1%, so you divide it into
By
70,
72.
how
That's
long
72 years for
it takes
your money to double itself.
double. So, of course, like you mentioned, even in my podcast or in my YouTube channel, I speak about those things, but of course, very lightly to encourage the individual to now book an appointment, complimentary, so that we could speak on a one on one. because not
Mhm.
what fits for you is not going to fit for Mary or John or Susie. So as
Yeah.
long as you know what the rule is, then we can meet and decide, not only explain the rule some more, but decide what's best for you. So that's essentially what the rule of 72 is. And if you go to any institution, financial institution, I don't just want to say banking, financial institution, they should know this. But as you know, they don't teach it. They don't teach it in school. They don't teach it any place. Well, when I learned it, I was like, probably that's why my parents knew that they could have retired at 50. My mom was a teacher. So, that was no big salary.
Mhm.
And as a matter of fact, when she retired, she worked for 30 years because she started so early that when she retired, it was summertime. And she knew she wasn't going back to school. She was like, okay, it's summer, summer break. That's it. I'm done. Well, come to find out that she needed 3 more months for her to get her whole pension. And they told her, if you don't work these 3 more months, in other words, go back. We were in the Caribbean in Puerto Rico, so school started
Mhm.
mid August. You have to go back August, September, and October. And after you work those 3 months, then you'll get your full whatever pension it was. And my father and they spoke. She and my father spoke, and it was a very short conversation. No, we're not going back for 3 months, because they had done what they had to do to not
Mhm.
to rely on the government, family members, or a pension. So they gave her, instead of her getting like 80% of whatever it was way less, but it's okay. And she was 50, and they passed away in their 80s without having to go back to work, without having to be a store greeter, go
Mhm.
wash dishes someplace, all of those jobs that are for students, you
Yeah.
know, and that, don't get me started with that one, because not knocking those jobs, but after you work 40 years, 35 years, do you want to go now and work for somebody for half or less the pay because you didn't put your things in place? And it's
Mhm.
never too late. But to me, those are the jobs I did when I was in college. I worked at a big retail store. I worked at a bakery. I was a store greeter. I did all of those little things. So I didn't want that at retirement, 65, 70, 72, whatever, whatever age I want to retire, or somebody wants to retire, to go back to the job that I did when I was 19. So that's why I was so excited to learn the rule of 72, even though, like I say, I was in my early 50s, but I was still
Mhm.
able to do something or start something, so that when the age came and my ability to perform was no longer as strong as it is now, I had some money aside and I didn't have to go back. Oh, I don't have to go back to be a store greeter, or, wash dishes. And that's for young people, for
Mhm.
strong people, not for our elderly.
Mhm. I understand that. I like that. I like everything that you've been saying a lot. And one thing I just want to go back to something, to your opinion. And I definitely want to go back to that opinion. And I just want to stress to everybody that is watching the live, or if you're catching the replay, how important it is to have somebody on your side, i.e. Miss Ellie Johnson, or just a financial coach in general, who can give you the information that you need so you can make a well-informed decision. I think that is something that we miss out on so heavily because we are so dependent on the financial institutions that are already set in place to aid us. But understand something, doctors practice medicine and they're just practicing. Of course, here's the prayer of a doctor. I hope that this medicine makes you well enough, but I also hope that I see you again, because that is the way that I make my money. And your banking institutions are going to make their money the exact same way. And this is things that happen with credit cards as well, because you have people who will go out and they'll get a credit card and they're thinking they're going to get all of those perks, they're going to get all of those things. But here's the truth: you only get all of those perks if you if you make the full payment on your credit card every single month. Oh, now you're getting free flights. Oh, now we're giving you the 12% off. You're getting buyback money. You're getting all types of things. And she said something that was really, really true, that of course they're not going to give you all of the information. Why am I going to give you all of the information when I know that it can potentially make me more money? No, I'm not. What? So I think that was something really important. And although it might be just an opinion, it is an opinion that is very, very has held true in a lot of situations. If you think about slavery, you think about the Holocaust, you think about all of the atrocities that have happened in mankind. And now let's bring it here back to finances. And what do you think people do? The rich stay rich, the poor get poorer. And that is the reason why. It's because you are not informed enough. So you need somebody like Miss Ellie on your side to help you understand these things, to give you the tools that you need as far as financial literacy goes. The rule of 72, and not only just the rule of 72, but being able to, I did think you mentioned something about compacting debt or stacking debt or something of that nature. There are just so many tools out there that we are not privy to because we haven't took the time to do the research. Everybody want to be rich, but nobody want to put the work in. Nobody want to study money. Nobody want to know. And you have people like Miss Ellie and Bella Rosa, who have, and Johnson Powerhouse, just in general, period, have dedicated themselves to giving you the tools that you need to better yourself in the realm of financial independence. So I hope you guys had your notebooks out. I hope you guys wrote down her YouTube and everything like that, so that you yourself can go and listen to her. You can also utilize her and her daughter as a means of bettering yourself, getting more financial independence for yourself, because contrary to popular belief, nobody wants to be stuck on welfare for the rest of their life. And not and just because you got Section 8 or something and you get food stamps. Listen, Trump not with that. And so for me, like, you have to find a way to educate yourself on the things that are happening in the world. And if you keep just sitting around thinking that, oh, money's gonna fall in my lap, I have somebody, and they have a company that can show you how to make money fall in your lap. You have to be willing to put the work in. Stop thinking that you could just do things and not. You're making uninformed decisions because you're choosing to be lazy. That's what it really is. Cause that's where I was stuck at for a long time. Like, you sit there and you think like, why am I always broke? Why am I always so do, and literally didn't know how to manage the money that it's still to this day I struggle with it. Managing the money that we do get, and making it work for us. No, we think it's okay for us to always have to go out and kill ourselves working to get a living to keep up in a world. Baby, they're not here for you. I it's like, so I appreciate it. I appreciate that opinion. Obviously, as you could tell, I was very excited to hear it because I work as a financial aid advisor at a university, and that is something that I tell my students all the time. They're taking out loans, you're taking out different things that are going to affect you in the future. If you're not looking at these APR rates, if you're not looking at these interest rates, honey, it's going to come back and it's going to bite you in your tail. And you're going to be sitting here talking about I only took out $3,000. Why do I owe them 20? Baby, that's that APR, that's that interest you ain't know you were signing up for. So, and I do believe that also in the same thing when you're looking at a savings account as well, and they tell you, hey, we're offering you 3% interest on the money that you're putting into our bank, that we're gonna save for you, and we're gonna add 3% interest on there. And to think, if you had the ideology of what the rule of 72 would be able to help you gain as far as financial independence and stability mentally, you would go into a bank and you would ask the right questions. It just reminds me of all of those movies that you see where the three people appear and you can only ask one question and the question got to be right. So like, and it's always that whenever you're dealing with somebody, and contrary to popular belief, because we think these corporations want nothing from us, they want everything from you. The financial institutions, they want all of your money. Beyonce know we broke and she want us to pay her back. pay $1,000 for a ticket, honey. What we finna do with $3,000, girl? You already rich. Why you want all our money? Like, so, I'm sorry, Miss Ellie.
I can hear the passion in your voice.
I'll be so it really is a thing of us really having the passion to go out and educate ourselves about the things that we want to be better at, or the things that we know we need to be better at. Everybody's up in this frenzy. We're all in this fit because of the things that are happening in politics, and instead of putting in the work and doing the research that we need to make sure that we'll be okay if the entire American system fails, and all of these, and we could have a Great Depression tomorrow, and would you be okay? And no, I would not. I'd be out here eating out the garbage cans like the white people was in the 1920s. I don't know what to tell y'all. That's where my life would be. But yes, I appreciated that. I appreciated that opinion. It touched me. So because that is something that my podcast, the platform is about self-development, just overall in general. And something that I like to tell them often is the same things that we utilize for self-development is the same things that you can utilize for business. The whole ideology of flipping your mindset, understanding that you have to flip your mindset in order to walk into a car dealership and not be played by them, to know that, oh, I can do this. And even if aren't you into insurance as well?
Yes.
You are. I want to I want to ask you, and my rant, and I don't know, my in my mind, this is just the way my jumbled up brain works sometimes. Um how do you feel life insurance and trust funds aid in creating generational wealth?
Well, that's a very key question because it goes back to people thinking that is not for us. That
Hmm.
is for the wealthy, that is for different races or different colors. That is for everybody. Because generational wealth, yes, it could be properties, it could be money, but it's also knowledge, financial literacy that you could leave, educate the next generation that you didn't know yourself at your younger years, and now you know.
Hmm.
So it would be like me saying, okay, well, I learned these things, and hey, and now I'm doing better, and then gatekeep. That's not generational wealth. Now that I could, so most of our clients are 25 to 45, 25 to 35. That's young people. That's people that need to know now how to handle their money, manage it so that when they get to retirement age. And remember, retirement is having the money to retire. It's not an age. Society tells you got to retire at 72, 67, 72. Now they want to increase it. I received my summary for my retirement. So when I retire, they're telling me how much they're going to give me. And I almost passed out. I said, that's not even enough for me to buy two gourmet coffees. But anyway,
Yeah.
don't get me started at that one. But the thing is that uh, it's very important because you mentioned insurance. That when I mentioned a while ago, not everybody is born with a silver spoon. Not everybody, his
Hmm.
family is, you know, the Waltons or Ray Kroc or um, all of these people.
Hmm.
There's regular people like me and you that are unselfish. That's how you create generational wealth. You got to be unselfish. You can't be thinking that what you got or what you're gonna grow is only for you. You got to think about the next generation. So life insurance is a way of setting up the next generation. And you could do a will, you could do a trust. Those are details that we could speak on a one-on-one. Because some people feel like, well, I ain't going to do no insurance because I don't want to get rich off of me. Trust me, $150,000 ain't nobody gonna get rich off of you. You follow what I mean?
Hmm.
$150,000, 200,000, 300,000. That is just a starting point. It's what they do with it that's gonna help the next generation. That's
Hmm.
where you could write a will to have stipulations, or the knowledge that you have. You could write a book, you could make notes, whatever. But the thing is that if you are unselfish, thinking of the next generation, like my grandson is 2 years old, he's about to turn 2 years old. I'm most likely, when he's a grown man, when I say grown 30, 40, I might not be around. But if I can impart this knowledge to him and leave something for him to get started, whether if it's a down payment for a home, uh, money for college, um, down payment to start his own business, that's how you create generational wealth. Letting the next generation start at a better point than what you did. It's not my parents'
Mhm.
fault that I didn't ask questions, and educate myself. Even though I saw what they did, I just enjoyed it. But I never asked, well, how these people living for a whole 30 years, traveling every year, going away for 2 months? All I did was hop in the plane with them, and I
Yeah.
enjoyed them, but I never asked, how did they do it? So it's my job not only to impart this knowledge and let the next generation be in a better starting point than I was, even though I enjoyed it. I could probably would have been in a better position way earlier if I had asked the right questions, like you mentioned a while ago. So, um, life insurance is not just for the burial. Life insurance is to leave the next generation, even your own family that's there with you now. If your family depends on your income, let's say it's you and a significant other and 2 or 3 kids, or maybe you and a significant other only, or maybe you and you take care of your mom or your aunt or your godmother, and they depend on your income. That doesn't mean that they depend on every dollar that you make, but you do help them out. So when you're no longer here, do you want them to be in the same position, in the better position, or in a worse position? That's what insurance is all about. I call it your last love letter. So, what do you want your last love letter to say? Hey, I'm unselfish. I love you. I know you had needed part of my income here. I'm leaving you something so you don't have to grieve twice, losing me and losing my income. And if you're able, the younger you start, because I know, people say, well, oh, I'm not getting life insurance. I'm only 25. Listen, this is the best time to get it because it's the less expensive. It's different than car insurance. Car insurance, the younger you are,
Mhm.
these companies want to kill you, because they think you're not responsible. But with life insurance, the younger you are, the less expensive it is. And you lock in that price for the next 30, 40 years while you're building, remember, because it's to, at least that's what we teach. We don't want you to have life insurance till you're 100. That, contrary to popular demand. Oh, be protected till you're 100. Listen, when I'm 100, I might not even be here. Or when I'm 100, I might not have the means or the strength to take that money and do something. I want to be able to leave something in case if something happens to me now, but at the same time, grow my money so that if when I retire, I'm still around, I have money to live off. I have money to enjoy. I have money to travel. That's what we teach. You buy term insurance now for X amount of time and grow money on the side, whatever tool is for you based on your age, so that if you live long, 60, 70, 80, you got money for you and you still got insurance for your family. But let me ask you a question. Let me ask your viewers. Um, if you had $500,000 that you have, make let your money grow for you, right? Whichever tool is we need you need to have, whichever investment tool the investment specialist says, okay, for you, this is what you want. You want to be aggressive, you want to be moderate, so on and so forth. And your money grows to 500,000, and you have your significant other. Some people might even say, I have no need for life insurance
Mm.
because I got all this money that if anything happens to me, these are my beneficiaries. So, and then if nothing happens to me, I still have the money for myself. So that's why we don't teach for you to have insurance till you're 100. We teach to have insurance. It's like renting money from the insurance company. See it this way: you're buying a house. You're renting an apartment because you cannot afford to buy a house. So meanwhile, you're paying rent to the landlord, right? You can't live there free. Meanwhile, you're saving if you're smart to buy a house. You can't tell the landlord, well, I'm not paying you rent because one day I'm going to buy a house. So that money, I need it to buy a house. So the same thing with the insurance. You're paying the insurance company, you're renting some money from them, 300,000, 500,000, 150,000. That's why you're paying $80 a month to rent 300,000 while you grow your own 300,000. That's exactly
Mm.
what we teach if you put it at a nutshell. That if you're unselfish and you want to leave that love letter in case if something happens to you, nobody plans to die tomorrow. People always say, you're here today, you're gone tomorrow. Listen, you're here today, you could be gone today. The people that go on that plane, uh, what it was a month or two ago, and they had that crash in with that helicopter. When they got on that plane, they didn't plan that that was their last trip. The people in the nightclubs that have
Mhm.
passed away in the mass shootings, and unfortunately, even children have passed away in mass shootings, a car accident, all of that is part of life. So why not prepare now? You know, with us, you can insure your children, uh, for a couple of dollars. And people
Yeah.
don't like to think about that because, oh, my kids, they're supposed to outlive me. But the kids in Sandy Hook School several years ago, their parents never dreamed that that was the last day that they were going to see their
Yeah.
kids. You know, and it's a kind of like a, people don't like to speak about their own mortality. So the industry that I'm in, it's sexy to speak about investing. It's sexy to speak about growing your money, but it's not sexy to speak about preparing for the today if anything happens to you. But guess what? We have to speak about it. So a lot of people say, I'm too young. I don't need that. I'm strong. I'm healthy. But it's just like car insurance. You don't get car insurance because you intend to get into a car accident. You get car insurance. One, well, it's mandated by the state. But two, because what if? That's why you get car insurance. What if somebody hits you and they don't have insurance? What if your car breaks down and you hit somebody? What if you lose control? That's the what if. You don't tell the car insurance, well, I'm going to get, you don't tell the car insurance company, I'm going to get the insurance. But if I never get an accident, I want my money back. No, it's the what if. So the same thing with the life insurance. It's for the what if. And I hope I answered your question.
Oh yes, absolutely. You answered it very well. Even in the sense of creating generational wealth, all of those things, and then just giving us more to really help us understand why it is important for creating generational wealth. And at least that's how I took it. So, I appreciate you for coming on, Miss Ellie. I would like to ask you. So here's the thing, because I did want to um I wanted to touch on the book that you have coming out as well. And I know we spent all of this time talking about financial literacy, and also I have learned so much. I was even over here writing a few notes down, just sitting here in my mind, just thinking about those things. And I know you have a life outside of financial literacy. And I believe that the book is a piece of that, and also an ode to the dating world after 50. Swipe, was it swipe left for AARP? I do remember that part of it. So and what is the title of your book again, please?
It is, I just finished it. And after I finished it, then I decided what the title was going to be. So it's
Mhm.
going to be coming out soon. But it's Swipe Left or Swipe Right to AARP Stories in the Dating World After 50. You
After
know,
50.
so the AARP is kind of like a ode to, you know, us mature people.
Yes, I understood it as soon as now let me ask you, is y'all dating pool as trash as our dating pool? Like how y'all living over there?
Let me tell you, and I learned this a while back. No matter your age, whether if you're a man or a woman, if your character is bad, your character is bad.
Hmm.
But don't you think because we're mature and you're going out or looking to date somebody that's mature and has lived life and maybe even retire. If their character is no good, trust me, it's just like if they were 16 with
Yeah.
the same bad habits, with the same everything. So the only thing is that now when you're mature, you're more set in your ways, and
Mm.
of course, nobody is here to change anybody's habits. But when you're younger, you might see the light or you might see things and say, something I could do better. But when you're already in your 60s and 70s, something, some of these folks ain't budging. Not that I tell them to budge, but most people are like, something, that's how I've been and that's how it's going to be.
They don't need
So
to change
it's
it.
crazy.
That's terrible. I'm not saying like, and the reason that I say that is terrible is because there is this belief that I walk with, this ideology that I have, and it was something that I never wanted to lose, even from the time that I was a child, is to always keep my curiosity, so that I'm able to stay open to the things that I've never been introduced before. And don't get me wrong, because there's some things that I'm introduced to, and I'm just like, yeah, no, that's not happening. But just to have an open mind, to at least just to have an experience with it, to have those things with it. And I do believe that in dating, just in life in general, even in finances, we allow ourselves to become rigid in our thinking. And the ideology is, the moment you become rigid in your thinking, this why you can't save no money. This why you having all these financial issues, is because you're rigid in your ideology about your relationship with money. And it's the same thing that we can take and we can apply to life in general. Just if you're dating, if you're looking to better yourself, if you're looking to do anything, you have to break that mindset of how you view yourself or how you view something else, or the same thing with life insurance. If you think of it as a bill all of the time, then guess what? You're going to always be like, "Oh, I'm not paying that. Don't nobody want to pay no more money." But if you look at it, like Miss Ellie stated, as an investment for generational wealth, to leave your family in a better position than you were when you started, and you have to take those things into account. And it's the same thing that we have to do when we're dating. I ain't saying being stupid, I ain't saying be stupid, now that's not what I'm saying, because there is a thing where you do have to have discernment, and you do have to utilize. And it goes right back to what Miss Ellie stated earlier: knowing what you want. You have to know what you want. I don't care what it is. You can say you're going to go give somebody $10, but if you don't give them a note about what the $10 for, what you think, they're gonna think it's a gift. Now you're gonna be in court and they're gonna be like, "No, they gave it to me as a gift. They didn't say that there was any." And look, you don't got no paperwork, so it was a gift. And in the court of law, if you can't prove it, then you know. So I appreciate you, Miss Ellie, for making this possible. I'd just like to ask, is there anything that you would like to leave us with? Any I do have one more question, actually, because this is one of the questions that I really did want to ask you. And it is, if you could give yourself, your younger self, advice about financial independence, as a mom, being an entrepreneur, what would you say to yourself?
Oh, absolutely. That's a great question. I always think about this because I do speak to so many young people. And if I could have, been I could go back in time and make a change, would have been start your plan earlier. Start your, write your goals and your dreams earlier, whether it's financial, you know, physical, spiritual, whatever. Because we go through life just like, oh yeah, and before I answer that, you said something.
Mhm.
I wanted to interject, but you were so passionate about it. I
Oh,
learned
sorry.
ago that no matter who is in power in government, no matter what the administration, they're doing, you still have to get up every morning and provide for your family.
Mhm.
No matter if it's left, right, red, green, blue, it doesn't matter. So that's why we mustn't get caught up in what's happening out there that doesn't concern you. If you voted, well, you know, this year, last year, whenever, the elections are, that's your part.
Mhm.
Whatever the outcome is the outcome. But you still have to get up every morning. You can't say, well, this party won, so that's it. I ain't never gonna provide for my family again. If you care, that's why I always say, they have those that don't care. So with that being said, I would have told my younger self, girl, it depends on you.
Mhm.
Everything depends on you. So there's certain things you have to put in place. Not only, well, your retirement plan, your investments, not overspending, um, turning off subscriptions that you don't need, um, don't go out to eat as often. Not saying don't enjoy life, um, but there's a lot. There's so many things, but those are the key. Um, yes, we love gourmet coffee, but don't have to buy three of them a day.
Okay.
You go make your own at home and buy one because you have a goal. Mind you, if
Mhm.
you're upset and you're not living from paycheck to Monday instead of paycheck to paycheck, because most of people get paid on Friday and by Monday it's all gone. If you're not living paycheck to Monday, if you're all set, you have investments, you have insurance, you got set aside for the next generation, all of that, listen, splurge as much as you want to. But if you don't have those things in place, and be honest with yourself, if you need a pair of shoes, why buy three? Buy one. It's a lot of things. And now, people say, oh, but you want me to cut down so much. Well, it's you who's saying you want to retire with $1 million. So how you going to make some money grow if you ain't got no money to put to grow? So those are things that I would probably tell myself, hey, listen, start earlier. It's never too late. I started at 50 and I'm 60 now. So it's never too late. But the thing is to start. It's to start where you at with what you have. You don't need 250,000. You don't need, $250. You just need what you have. If you have $50, well, let's start with $50 uh, to make your money grow. It's not what you have. It's to start and be consistent. You mentioned a while ago, many people is like, ain't nobody want to pay this thing. Well, this thing is as important as a bill.
Mhm.
Listen, when the 15th come and Verizon knocking on my door, I gotta pay that. As a matter of fact, it's on auto. The car insurance is on auto. So you treat now your household, your retirement plan, your investments, your insurance as a bill. You don't call the electricity company and say, "No, this month I ain't paying. That's okay. I'm skipping. Let's leave it off for a little bit, and then when I start making more money, I'll put it back on." That's not what we tell our utilities. That's not what we tell our credit card.
Hmm.
Same thing with our household. With this, I would have told myself, the sooner you start treating yourself and your household as serious as we do with all these bills. People borrow money from people to pay the phone bill. Not saying that you can't, because that's where you're at. The same way as important is your household, your retirement plan, your investment plan, your children's education. You know, as we go crazy borrowing money to do this extravagant birthday for a 2-year old, but we ain't really even have
Hmm.
a cost for that child started yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, listen, those of you who are watching, don't throw the phone at me. But that's me. A 2-year old don't know left or right. And you got this big party with ponies and this and that, and all of the adults drinking, and you don't even have $50 aside to start off for a college plan for your child or a custodial account. There's listen, there's so many things that we could do with our money for it to grow for the next generation. And also for you. Because I know, I joke about age and I'm not going to be here. Trust me, I know I got the next 30, 40 years to be here. And it's not to be here, but to have quality of life. That's why I do
Mhm.
what I do. That's why I teach people what I teach. And if you feel you're so in debt and you got 10 credit cards plus this and that, we can help you with that too. We don't lend money, but we can help you put a plan in place to start getting rid of the problem starts with, like you mentioned, all that interest.
Hmm.
Oh, it's sexy. I got credit cards slash here, slash there. But when that interest starts piling up, So we have a plan that's called debt stacking, and it'll show you how to, you got to be honest. If you got 10 credit cards, well, you got to give me your 10 credit cards. How much, what's your interest rate, how much you owe, and how we're going to start tackling them. And as you get rid of one, we're going to tackle the next one. Not for you to go on a vacation with the money that you used to pay. So, you have to be disciplined, you have to be
Mhm.
serious, and you have to
Mhm.
be intentional. So all of those three things, if I had, even at 30, be serious about those three things. Not saying that I'm awful, but I would have been way more ahead than I am now.
I like that. Well, thank you so much, Miss Ellie. I have appreciated talking to you, just listening to you. Yes, just like your bio says, you are infectious. I don't know if you know that you are, and the knowledge that you bring is very very relatable. You make it so easy to listen to accept. So, as I stated, you guys, if you haven't followed her already, you can also go over to our YouTube account, and this comment should be there. You should be able to click on her hyperlink and go over to her YouTube page. Make sure you like, subscribe, get in there with her, because I understand that as a nation we are all having some financial issues because we are just children who grew up way too fast and we didn't have any knowledge. And this is the things that were passed down from your parents, to not know how to utilize your money or not know what to do with it. So I do think that Johnson Powerhouse is a necessity. They are important, and they're important to help you understand how to utilize money to benefit you and not to just be chasing after it so you can keep up with other people. So, if that's something that you are sincerely interested in, I do recommend you heading over there. And also, just as Miss Ellie stated, these people want you to work 72 years for them for pennies, for you to retire with only to receive $500 a month while you on SSI, because this what you finna get is this little $500 a month, because you ain't studied the rule of 72, and you didn't know that when you was putting all this money into your SSI that they was only giving you 1%. And so that's why it took you 72 years to double the $10,000 that you had in the first place. Stop playing with them. Make sure you go and check out the services that they offer, and she offers so much more than the things that we touched on as well. So in any services that you are looking for, get in touch with her, get in touch with Johnson Powerhouse, period. I do know that they are a mother-daughter duo, a dynamic duo. First of all, let's make sure we get the what are those descriptive adjectives right there. So but I definitely appreciate you, Miss Ellie. It has been a pleasure speaking with you. Um, and the last tidbit of information that you gave yourself, if you were younger, I think that definitely we all need to hear that, because that is something that is true. If you don't have discipline, if you don't have focus, if you don't have ambition, you're going to keep walking in circles. And if that's something that you're okay with, then by all means keep walking in those circles. Make sure you go again and follow her on YouTube, like, subscribe. You can also catch her on Facebook as well. I also on Instagram as well too.
Yep.
So you want to make sure you get her on all platforms, because the information that she is giving, and also not just the information, don't just go for the information, but utilize her for the business that she is as well, to help you get a better understanding of those finances, to cultivate those plans with you, those to do the financial needs analysis and all of those things, because those are necessary tools for you to elevate yourself within finding your financial independence. So thank you all so much for tuning in to the Immersive Experience. I hope to see you guys back on Thursday. And Miss Ellie Johnson, thank you. You were simply amazing. I'd love to have you and your daughter back on, and we could just have a whole little show about whatever. I'd like to talk about anything, actually. So it
Yeah,
don't gotta be
I,
financial, but
I
I'm
can
sorry.
imagine all three of us, it'll be an explosion with Bella and I. We could talk
I know
about
it will be.
that. It don't have to be finances, but it's been my pleasure. And like you mentioned, uh, you could follow me on YouTube. Those shorts are meant just to get your interest, and the one-on-one is really to help you move forward.
So make sure you go and get with her for the business that she is as well, not just for the information that she has, because information is one thing, but utilizing the tools is a totally different thing. It's like somebody putting a set of instructions in front of your face, but they in Spanish and you don't speak Spanish. Well, at least I don't. So they put it in front of me, and I'm looking at it like, what they want me to do with this? Like, what you mean? So now you just out here winging it, and that's how most of us got our instructions. Anyways, it was in another language, and it was a language that we didn't speak. So make sure you inform yourself. Make sure you get with a financial coach like Miss Ellie, who can help you become financially independent, or at least give you better tools to become financially independent, and also show you different things that can help you gain your financial independence, whether it's getting you to uh even start your own businesses and selling life insurance, or getting you out there and different. She has all of those tools for you. So make sure you follow her, talk to her, do all of those things. And thank you so much. You guys have an amazing morning. I appreciate you all. Bye bye.